Mic check. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Piggyback. Hi, I'm Ashley Daigle, and this is Advice from the Cheerbrarian. Never heard that word before? That's because I smushed two words together because I felt like it. This week, we're going to do what we always do. Mix a dollop of advice to improve your life, born from a few of my successes and a boatload of my mistakes, with the book recommendation of the week, unearthed by my voracious love of reading, from self-help to historical fiction and everything in between. Today, we are going to start a new tradition and find a way to claim some of that shiny new school year energy and apply it to the workplace to give a stale working life that new job smell. If you like what you hear, and I really hope you do, please, pretty please, with 2 cherries on top, tell 2 people about this podcast and send them a link to an episode you enjoyed, because direct word of mouth is huge for a little pod like mine. And now, let's begin. I am so excited to welcome someone into this virtual studio so I can give my usual unsolicited advice, but this time to a real live person who's going to talk to me and laugh at all my jokes, right? Yes, you're going to do that? Yeah? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You paid me to
So,
say that.
do what? I didn't.
You paid
No,
me.
that was totally organic. That was an organic moment that happened. So, so today's guest is perfect for this episode to talk about work because she is my favorite coworker that I ever had in all of my life. Sorry to all the rest of my coworkers, but it's true. So, welcome, Amelia. Yay!
Hello. Thanks for having me, Ashley.
Thank you so much for coming. So, we're going to do a little intro with Amelia so you people can learn about her. So, tell us, Amelia, where are you from? Where do you live? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. I'm originally from middle of nowhere, upstate New York, a small town called Canisteo, population 3,000. It's
Ooh.
very small. I think similar to a hometown that you grew up in. And I've lived.
Mine had
Oh, oh,
20,000. So,
okay. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
pretty
We'll
similar.
call it.
Pretty similar. Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. Yeah. And I've lived in Wilmington, North Carolina for the last 11 years.
Beautiful. Love it. What,
Great.
if anything, would you like listeners to know about you? You can say
I mean,
nothing.
nothing really comes to mind. Well, I'll throw it back to you because you just
Oh,
gave me that wonderfully warm introduction.
oh,
Um,
beautiful.
just to kind of give a little bit of background, and maybe you're going to get into this, but you and I worked together for 2 years. Does that
About, yeah,
sound
just about.
about
Hmm.
right? Year and a half,
Hmm.
2 years,
Hmm.
something like that. And you are one of my favorite coworkers ever. I only say
Stop.
one of my favorite
Oh,
because I worked with my wife for a period of time, so I can't
oh.
say favorite.
No, that's
That would
fair.
be that would
I
be
wouldn't
rude.
want you to. Yeah, I'm glad for
Yeah,
that. And
but it was a great time.
yeah, we were a dynamic duo. We were the peanut butter and jelly.
Hmm.
And that was she's the jelly because she's like kind of, chill and malleable and like whatever. And then
Sure.
I'm the peanut butter because I was the nuttier one of our duo. It's almost you don't need that explanation. It made sense. Okay. And then lastly, what brought you here today, Amelia, for this unsolicited advice? Why are you here today?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm gonna give the same answer that you've gotten from your last two
Sure.
guest
Mhm,
hosts.
mhm.
Um, I'm here for you.
Oh, beautiful.
Also, we talk regularly, and you give me advice regularly. So much like
Mhm,
your
mhm.
other co-hosts, whatever. I don't know
Yeah,
what are you calling us,
co-host. That's
co-hosts?
fine, yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason. Also, you shouted Grant and I out. We're unpaid but very appreciated producers of the show, so it only felt
Yeah.
right to accept this invitation.
There you go. Yeah, so she is if you heard I don't forgot what episode that was. Oh, that was the 20th, like, the anniversary 20 episode where I shouted out, and Amelia was one of those shout outs. So, let
Giving
us
myself a
now
shout out.
yeah, give yourself a shout out about my shout out. We're good. We like to
Yeah,
brag. It's good practice. Okay.
it's great.
So what are we doing today? So today's topic, I was inspired because I was helping my kiddo get ready to go back to school. And I was thinking about the energy of the new school year. You get new notebooks, you get new pens, or I guess, I don't know, iPad batteries, whatever kids get nowadays. And there's so many opportunities to like recreate yourself, not just with your school supplies, but you get new teachers and you can have a new approach and new mindset. But in the working world, I was like, we don't really have that, right? Like there are performance reviews, but though, based on your company. It's like, we do these in January. Now we do them in April. Now we're not doing them this year. Like, it's not a standard practice necessarily. So there's not a designated time to start fresh, especially if you're doing the same job. So I have claimed on behalf of all of you early September, because guess what else is early September? Labor Day, which is what? A celebration of labor.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's right. It
Suits you good
started
there.
in like 18 something too. I don't know. Somebody fact check me. I think some of the history of Labor Day was like to quiet some protest about things in May, but we're just going to ignore that. We're going to say Labor Day, we're celebrating labor, and we're going to do it by reflecting on our own labor habits. So, because it's me, I had to come up with some, like, a little, way to remember this. So, I have the 3 R's of your labor habits, which is what we're going to talk about. The first one is routine. So, we're going to start with routine insofar as our labor habits. So, Amelia, how is your work routine serving you? Give us the good, the bad, the ugly. What you got?
Yeah. Um, this is I don't know, I wouldn't say difficult one. It shouldn't be a
Mhm.
difficult one. And I think that's what makes it difficult. I don't know
Mm,
that I have like a really set routine, which is not maybe the most helpful.
okay.
Um, one of the things that I do try to do that I think you and I have probably talked about before, and maybe you're the one that told me about it probably,
Mm,
is do something for yourself first. Like before you get started in your day, do something for yourself first. So I always make sure that I'm like going for a run or going for a walk or doing, I don't know, it could even be like putting away the dishes, which that's not really ideal, reading a book, journaling, any of those sorts of things. I try
yeah.
to make it a run, but depends on the weather. And so that's really my first thing to try to like kick off my day. And other than that,
Mhm.
I think it really varies for me week by week, which is not ideal. And maybe you have some advice about that. That was unscripted.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful throwback to me. So I think having clear demarcation of when your work is beginning and your work is ending is pretty important, especially with nowadays so many people doing hybrid work and work from home. It's easy to just sort of fall into the trap that you could always be working and when things are on your phone. So little habits and routines you can do. Right now, mine aren't great either. I mean, I'm currently trying to find another like full-time gig, but one thing I would do similar to what you said, start the day with a walk and maybe finish the day with a walk. And like literally at the end of the day, you like close the laptop. If your workspace is at your house, I think this is even more important. You kind of can even say out loud to yourself, like, the workday is done, which feels silly, but it's good to have a transition. So you close the computer and then you go. Another tip that I think works really well is using music as a marker, because your actions and like your mood will start to be associated with certain songs. So you could make like a certain playlist that you listen to just at the beginning of the day. Maybe your vibe is you want high energy, or maybe you want like mellow tunes. But if you have a playlist and you only listen to it when the workday is starting, then that's already prompting your brain to be like, work is now happening because I have that music on. Um, so that's another, quick tip. What about, how do you do with, do you eat meals regular during the workday? Because this is a tricky one for a lot of people.
This is a tricky one,
Mhm.
especially depending on what your calendar looks like, how many meetings
Sure.
you are in, things like that. I
Mhm.
try to be really, really good about eating breakfast and lunch. I
Mhm.
usually don't eat breakfast before I start working. Like, usually that's the thing I do while I'm working.
Uh-huh.
I know this isn't with you an unpopular opinion. I'm not a big breakfast person, not a big breakfast food person. So to
Sure,
get
sure.
me to eat breakfast, not great. But
Okay.
I'll have a smoothie or whatever. And then I try, if my calendar's starting to look a little bit too crazy, depending on the season or whatever else is going on, I try really hard to block my calendar for at least 30 minutes to step away and eat food.
Right.
Not always great about it, but I
Yeah.
think it's really important to just like have that break and that like disconnection in your day.
Mhm.
Similarly to what you were saying about like the start and end, which I love, like find ways to signify that, especially if you're working from home.
Yeah, that's really important, and I think it's a common struggle. Like, people try to block their calendars, and then everyone knows, oh, well, it says lunch for an hour, so that means you're not doing anything. It's like, well, I am, and so I think the world will take from you what it can get, to include
Sure.
your coworkers and your place of employment. And so if you let people schedule meetings with you during lunch, if you have the capacity to sort of push back, you may be in a role where you just don't have that much flexibility. But if you don't hold the boundary for yourself, nobody else is going to, or they're not going to hold it as well as you do, right? You might have some people who are careful about it, but if you don't push back when people keep taking lunch meetings with you, um, it,
Yeah. Well, and just sorry to add to that
yeah,
is one, boundaries, incredibly important. I think we don't do enough with that, like during the workday,
Mhm.
but also, um, almost lost my train of thought. You're gonna edit this out, right?
Yeah, sure. Maybe. We'll see.
It's fine. I respect so much when someone goes, "Hey, sorry, that's my lunchtime." Sorry, let's not say sorry. Hey, that's my lunchtime.
Right.
Can you find another slot or
Yeah,
propose
there
a
you
new
go.
time? I have a tremendous amount of respect for people when they do try like enforce those boundaries.
Absolutely, and then it makes it okay for you to do it, right? So it's a simple
Yeah,
thing to say, "Hey, that's actually my lunch," and then they can schedule around it. So and you
yeah,
may have to you might have a practice, so as we're looking at, like, already in progress work, you might have to change something. So when I've had a job where I had a really long commute, and I was like, "Well, I have to eat breakfast first because as you already hinted, Amelia, breakfast is important. So I was eating breakfast at, like, 7 o'clock in the morning so that then I could be in the car. And then I was
mhm,
just like, I would be starving by lunch. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't I just bring my breakfast to work and eat at work? I didn't love that that meant I was eating breakfast and lunch at my office, but it meant I could eat breakfast at a time that was like more reasonable than trying to scramble and like shove food in my face at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
sure.
there may be something in your life that you're doing a certain way that you've always done a certain way that if you re-examine it, a small tweak, it could help you.
Mm,
Okay, routine, check-a-rooney. Next bucket we have, the next R of your labor habits is relationships. So I don't I was about to say, I don't like to toot my own horn. That's not true. I enjoy tooting my own horn. I really
I
do.
do mean to brag. Yeah.
I am bragging. I building relationships is a strength of mine. Part of that comes from I have a genuine curiosity about other people. I like to get to know people and ask them things about them, and that makes it easier for I think me to work with them and them to work with me because I think of them as a person. Now, if you're not that kind of person, then I encourage you to pretend. You might have to fake it till you make it. And I know that, like, I'm not gonna tell you get on a Zoom call and do icebreakers because I know that, like, oh, that seems gross to a lot of people. Amelia's like
Not
me. That seems
to
gross to
anyone
me.
but you.
Anyone but me.
Not
But
anyone.
a lot of people. But, like, small prompts, anytime you can have an authentic conversation about something outside of work, be it a song you like, a movie, whatever, will contribute to building a relationship with somebody else. So that's my tip about relationship building is, like, be genuinely curious about the people that are in your life, even your work life. And if you're not genuinely curious, if you were the reality show contestant who is not here to make friends, then just, like, pretend a little bit because you will build a foundation that's gonna make your life easier, okay? That's my, like, pro relationship making tip right there. Yeah.
So let me ask you,
Sure.
as like to someone who is great at building relationships.
Yes, that's me. Go ahead.
All right, so work people, you get on a Zoom call
Mhm.
primarily. This is like my life.
Sure.
Um, what are some good prompts that you can ask someone that feels authentic? That's not just how was your weekend?
Yes. Here's a fun one that is easy, I think, and that doesn't put people too much on the spot. If you ask people, "What is the last thing that made you laugh?" Because they can keep it to work if they want. It can be a little personal. And then by laughing, that makes, by thinking about it, that makes them smile and makes them happy. And it just sort of like infuses positivity into the moment. And
Yeah,
maybe they
I like
share,
that.
like, oh, my kid did something silly, or I saw this thing on TV. And so I like that one a lot because it gives you flexibility. It's not like, tell us what's the one people always ask about your fun fact.
Mm,
That's stressful because, like, what do you mean by fun? Like, what kind of fun are we talking about? Like, it's too broad, it's not clear, and it just induces stress. So, like, what
yep.
made you laugh gives people flexibility, I think.
Yeah, I like that. There's
Mhm,
one of the meanings that I do at the top of it. That was not my prompt, but I like it. It's
mhm.
similar. It's like just what's one good thing about this week, and
Yeah,
it does that same thing that kind of gives you flexibility to say, here's this thing I'm really excited about for work that can prompt in conversation. But also, if I want to get a little more personal, then yeah,
yeah,
I could talk about my kid or my dog or my something
yeah. Well, and I think that's a
like
great tip is, like, if you can find prompts that people can talk about that people could answer with something about work or about, you know, like, personal life. I almost forgot the word life right there. I was like, "What's the thing that isn't work?" Your life. There it is. Got it.
life. They're right.
That helps. So within relationships though, I wanna talk a little bit about difficult conversations because
Hmm.
and I'll talk about this book in a little bit. The book I'm kinda gonna refer to had a study in there that said people would rather dump a romantic partner than have a difficult conversation at work. Are you surprised by that?
No,
No, me neither.
no. I
Not
how
at all.
many when we talked about this, how many difficult conversations have I just flat out avoided?
Right,
Would make my
yeah,
life easier.
right,
Probably wouldn't even be received poorly,
right.
but I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, before we started recording, I kinda gave Amelia an overview about what we're gonna talk about, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna talk about difficult conversations," and I'm having trouble coming up with good examples of difficult conversations at work because my brain just keeps replaying all the things that irritated me that I never, like, directly talked to the person about. I certainly talked to somebody else about it to, like, vent, but I didn't, like, solve it. So, what we're saying is, it's a work in progress, okay? We're all gonna learn
Sure.
about this together. So my question, I guess, and you can tell me your answer might be like, I don't know, you tell me. How do you approach difficult conversations at work and maintain the relationship? The answer
Yeah.
is going to be like, I don't have any.
Well, not necessarily for how to navigate the conversation itself. I
Yeah.
think that I kind of going back to the relationship portion of it, like
Mhm.
you kind of need to understand a person
Right.
and like have a good sense of who they are and like how direct or indirect they are, how they handle feedback, how they best receive feedback. But
Yeah.
the other thing that I've done in the past with a few different bosses that I've had is I have all these things that are eating away at me
Mhm.
that I'm like I'm gonna go in there and I'm just gonna like unleash on this person and tell them about all the things that they're doing wrong.
Great.
And so I sit
Love
down
it.
and I write it all out. Like
Mhm.
every single point that's frustrating me and I want to like chat with this person about.
Mhm.
And I start to realize that there's a lot of these that are just me having an emotional response and they're not actually a productive conversation. So then kind of
Ooh.
like dwindle down the list from there to decide like what really matters
Yeah.
and what will push me the most into having this difficult conversation.
Gotcha. So you sort of do like a brain dump of like, this person has been frustrating me. Here are the things I'm frustrated about. And then from there, you kind of mine it and go, okay, well, this one's just me being silly. This one is me projecting, and
Yes,
kind of get it
yes.
down to like, okay, the nugget is that that's a really great practice. Thank you for sharing that. I've never done
Oh,
that
thank you.
before. Awesome. So if we take that and take it a step forward, so if you get to the point when you're ready to have a conversation, so first tip I have about trying to have difficult conversations at work is to make sure that you're not starting from a place of high emotion and that you diffuse yourself and try to find some common ground. And so I
Mhm.
took a course once on it's called Crucial Conversations. It's like a book and a course. And so the best tidbit I got from that was to ask yourself when you're trying to prepare for a difficult conversation, why would a reasonable person do X? Why would if you're mad about like why would a reasonable person wait until the last minute to ask me for this like request?
Mm.
If your answer is like because they suck, well then you're not ready to have the conversation. So you need to
Ah.
really sit with yourself and go, okay, well, maybe they have a lot of projects on their plate. Maybe they didn't see the
Mhm.
communication I sent them. Maybe their boss is barking at them about this other thing and it's not as high of a priority on their list as it is on my list. And so similar to kind of the work you're doing, you're actually trying to figure out like what could be reasons for the problem, and that can shape your conversation because you could start with, hey, this really frustrated me. I was thinking maybe this was a factor. So you give them sort of a possible answer, a way to start the conversation versus like, I didn't like this, right?
Yeah. So there's like some mutual understanding there. Like this might
Mhm.
not be you, but can we just like have this discussion?
Exactly, exactly. And so I've got 3 steps that you can take to prevent a conversation from devolving. So the first one is to label your feelings. So you have to identify like I am whatever. So you never want to start with like you did. It's like I am frustrated, I am upset, I am hurt, whatever it is, like own where you're at. The second one is then understand where the feelings are coming from. So I am frustrated because. So again, Amelia's list is perfect for that. You've already sifted through and gotten rid of the junk reasons that your brain has come up with and like the real ones. And then you need to feel calm enough to hear the other person out. So again, if you can't answer the why would a reasonable person this without like petty, nasty, like hilarious ideas, you probably need a few more minutes. And like we've all been
Sure.
there. It's good. Like I am sure I've done this before where like you type out a Slack or you type out a Slack to yourself and then you read it and you're like, let me delete this, let me delete this. And then you finally send it, right? So sometimes you need a few minutes before you can like have that difficult conversation, right?
Yeah. How long would you say you let yourself like ruminate on
Well, again, I keep coming up with examples of
that?
things that I haven't dealt with. I mean, I think time-wise, if it's beyond a week, it starts to feel a little weird. So, and
Yeah,
like a calendar week, right? So if something happens on Tuesday, then by, if you can, the end of that same week, but if not by the next Tuesday, to have reached out to the person and tried to do it. And like that can be difficult with time constraints and things like that. But I think if it's like 3 weeks later and you're like, oh, this thing, the person's like, what are you even talking about? Like, you're making it difficult to have an authentic conversation because they won't be able to pull like you did to remember the conversation, right?
totally, totally.
Yeah.
Your same framework.
Mhm.
I'm gonna admit something right now. I did
Do
something
it.
to frustrate someone earlier this week, or maybe it was
No,
last
you
week. I
didn't. That's
cannot
never
remember.
happened. How
I
dare they?
once and never.
Sure.
But they called that same framework, and
Did they?
I was very, yes, the one that you just went through, and I
Mhm.
was very like disarmed by it. Like, it
Mhm.
didn't feel bad that this person was reaching out to me and like saying like, I'm frustrated because you did this thing, and like here's the impact and like my understanding of like, like XYZ.
Mhm.
And going back to what I said earlier about the like boundaries, I had
Right.
nothing but respect for it. Like, it was okay that someone had that conversation with me. I wasn't like, well, screw this,
Yeah.
and like threw my papers in the air.
Yeah.
But
That's
just,
awesome. Well,
you
and
give
like
good advice.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And I think too that like it's okay if you need to vent a little bit to just kind of if you need to vent to somebody to de-escalate it to get it to the point where you can have the productive conversation, that's fine. But if you do the thing where you have talked to like five people about this thing, but not the person, like you're not doing yourself
Mm,
or that person any favors. You're just sowing discontent in the team, right?
sure.
Okay. I feel like we did a really good job with relationships, and we're going to move on to my last R, which is reorganization, because I really wanted to do organization, but it doesn't start with an R. So, and I'm also giving a nod to like, if you're on a job, you've got some organization. You may feel very scattered, but you are, getting paid to do something. So you have a method. But we
Something.
want to look at the point of this is to sort of examine our processes. So, Amelia, as our test subject, how do you stay
Great.
organized with your work? What's working for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I'm a pretty task oriented person, so
Hmm.
I try to break up my day like that. I
Yep.
One of the things that like I tell people this all the time, and I don't think that it's the most helpful, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Great.
Whenever we have like new project, new initiatives, new quarters, new like responsibilities,
Hmm.
I always feel a need to shift the way that I organize myself. So what worked for me last quarter might not work for me this quarter, and that's okay. So again, not the most helpful, because it's always evolving for me.
I think that's helpful though, because it gives permission to grow and change, and you don't have to
Mm,
use the same thing. Sometimes it's like the problem is that you're refusing to adapt to the situation. So with the power
sure.
vested in me by literally nothing, everyone listening, I give you permission to throw away your old process, throw away whatever notebook you've been using, get a new
Heck yeah.
one, whatever you need to be enabled to do some new organization to bring some good vibes to your work. Do it. You have my permission. I will sign your requisition form, which is not legally binding in any way. Yeah.
I feel like you should be like anointing with your microphone.
Yes. Blessings to you.
Yeah.
So I have an idea that I want to share about to-do lists, which I mean, there's so many different things you can do, and you can really lose yourself in making the list and not doing the things. I know I've done that many a day. But this new
Yep.
technique that I'm trying is having an open and closed to-do list. And for me, this is including like work things and personal things. So you could do it either way. So the open list is just like almost like a brain dump of all the things you need to do, like get the dog medicine, finish that project, pick up the kid, whatever. Probably not pick up the kid. You should do that regularly. Leave that off the list. But
That's a
anything that
negotiable.
That's yeah, he can walk, it's fine. But anyway, so open is just everything that comes up that is just like on a piece of paper in a notebook. And then closed is the things you're going to try to work on today. No more than like 10 things. And the trick is nothing can go on the closed list until something comes off of it. So you're keeping sort of the expectations and what you intend to do in any given day, or you can do week, whatever works for you. You're keeping that low, but the open list is allowing you to like reduce the anxiety of forgetting something because you're like, well, where do I
Mhm.
put this? And you can use any notebook, any digital, whatever you want. I just started doing this and it has really freed me. It's helped me to like know that like all the things I have that just keep popping up are on this one piece of paper, and then I just keep moving them to this other piece of paper. So I don't know. That's working for me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. When
Mhm.
you do the open list,
Mhm.
do you try to keep it to like things this week? And do you go like larger of like if I have extra time, I would like to do this, I don't know,
Yeah.
landscaping job.
I so I just started this like recently. So what I'm doing is I have the open list is just like a piece of paper that has like 20 or 30 things on it. And
Mhm.
then each day I'm like redoing my list for the day. So like today I looked at yesterday's. There was like one thing from yesterday's list that I didn't get done that I put on today's list. And then I picked a few more things from that list. And then that's how I like doing it daily. It might be, like I said, it might be helpful for you to do weekly if that works better for your brain, but that's what I'm
Just kind
doing.
of depends.
Yeah, kind of depends.
Okay. I like it. We'll try it.
So yeah, some of the things that we've been talking about right now are from this really great book, and I'll talk about it more on the back end of the episode, but I wanted to mention now. So the book is called No Hard Feelings: The Secret Power of Embracing Emotions at Work. So this book is marketed as a toolkit for dealing with negative emotions at work. And so it's where I got some of the stuff I talked about the difficult conversations. That was a framework I learned from that. And so Amelia, I know that you have read this book as well.
Mhm.
So how did it help you? What was interesting in it for you?
I mean, the book itself, and just a little bit of backstory. Our old boss
Mhm.
is the one that kind of brought this up, and
Yep.
I don't even think she told us to read it. I think we just both went out and bought it,
She
like
said she said,
probably on the
"I
same day.
read this book and it has helped me." And so both of us with our personalities were like, "Our boss said she read a book. We have to go read this book right now." And the boss was like, "I mean, sure, but like that wasn't what she meant, but that's how you and I took it."
Yes, yes. And I think just thinking back, and it's been a little bit since I've read the book, but
Mhm.
one of the things that I really took away was one of the first things that our boss said to us is like, I'm not married to my work. Like
Yes.
I'm not all in all the time with my work, and
Mhm.
that's okay. Like I'm here to pay my bills, to support me in the life and the lifestyle that I want to have. I don't want to
Mhm.
take it home with me at the end of the day.
Right.
So, and I think that that was a really big thing. And then the guide to working with me doc that is
Yeah.
one of the like work sheets in there
Mhm. Yeah.
was really beneficial because when you and I started working together, it really helped me understand how you work as a
Right.
person who I had to work so closely with,
Yeah.
and just I found it today. A guide to working with Ashley and Amelia.
Did you?
Hmm.
Oh gosh. What did it say, like, "I talk a lot"? Was that in the guide to working with me? I bet it was.
You ask a lot of follow up questions.
Yep.
Um, yep. What else is here? I don't know. Well, I'll link it to you
That's great.
afterwards for you
Yeah.
to not put in the show notes.
No, I will not put that in the show notes. But yeah, so there's an idea from the book. So you make a document, and I don't remember all the questions. What are some of the questions? Is it just like tell me about yourself kind of thing? What's
It
in there?
drives me nuts when blank. The best way to
Ooh.
communicate with me is blank. A few
Mhm.
things people might misunderstand about me, and I prefer to give and receive feedback like this.
Right. So that's just 4 questions, right? So yeah, so
Yeah.
us filling that out when we started working together helped us already have a framework. So I encourage you to do something like that. And then one more thing I want to say about this book, and you sort of commented on it. So chapter 2 is called Health, and it said, "Be less passionate about your job. Why
Yes.
taking a chill pill makes you healthier." So
That was it.
if that inspires you, then you should pick up the book. And again, I'll break it down a little further in the back half of the episode. But for me, the book helped me to kind of realize that emotions and having emotions at work shouldn't be taboo. So I feel like,
Mm.
in our world, it could be, patriarchally, you feel like you can't be emotional at work, but they talk about how your emotions can be your allies or even your strengths in a work environment. And there's like cartoons that are fun. Um,
Very fun.
so I now have the real stack of pancakes. I have a few little tipperoonies I want to drop. So we talked about the main thing to think about is examine your habits and figure out what is or isn't serving you in your routine. Could you get up earlier? Could you maybe sleep in? How can you make or maintain boundaries so you aren't always on at a work from home job, which we talked about? And then think about your response rate. So I talked about that 2 episodes ago about not immediately responding, but maybe do an experiment, take a break from responding. And then the last thing I want to talk about with work and my pancakes is you need to find ways to inject your day with energy because you're a human being, darn it, not a human doing. Okay. Human being. So, my tips, you need to get up and move. Breaks are productive. I'm going to repeat that. Breaks are productive. I'm also repeating it for myself, who sometimes forgets that. But if you need me to tell you again, taking care of yourself and going on a break will make you more productive. Your brain needs a few minutes to like chill, and then you might get the answer to that question versus if you just try to power through squinting at your laptop. So, by a break, I mean stretch at your computer, do a 5-minute walk, dance it out by yourself or in the office. I mean, who wouldn't love that? I mean, if I was dancing in the office, Amelia, you'd be into that, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd make me happy.
Yeah, there you go. And so I also love it doesn't take a lot to change your mood or at least sort of like shake up a funky mood. I like having a musical playlist. So I have a 16-minute mood boost playlist that like when I'm just real in a real grump, I put this on, it always helps me. Okay, here are the songs. This is going to be real interesting. So the first one is Grace Kelly by is it Mika or Micah? I don't know.
So
Somebody
it's
tell me.
Micah, isn't it?
Micah? Sure. I don't know.
Someone fact check it.
Okay, someone fact check it. And then we have 100% Pure Love by Crystal Waters from like, that one from the 90s. It's like, and back to the middle and around again. I'm going to be
Yeah.
there in the end, 100%. Yeah, Pure Love. And okay, you got it. You got it.
It was great. It was the closest thing to you dancing in the office.
Yeah, beautiful.
That we can get.
The third one is Karate by Tenacious D, which make sure you have headphones in because that one is a little explicit. Then we have Black Horse and the Cherry Tree by KT Turnstall. And then my last one, and this is the one, if you only have 5 minutes to try to change your mood, Do It Anyway by Ben Folds. This is Ben Folds pounding on the piano, and the lyrics are literally like, when everything is garbage, do it anyway. So it's like real, it's real on the nose. It's real on the nose.
Okay.
Do you have any tunes that you use to like help yourself out, or are you just gonna go copy my playlist because it's so impeccable?
Oh, I'm gonna go copy your playlist because it's impeccable.
Great. Okay, perfect. There you go.
It's great.
All right. So I feel like we've done a pretty thorough job of giving out some tips and tricks to harness that new school energy and give you some ideas to reinvigorate your work. Do you have anything else to add before we move on, Amelia?
I don't know. I think we covered it.
I love how thoughtful you genuinely took a real moment and were like, no. You're like, no, we did excellent. Okay. So now we're going to move into the lightning round where I have a few questions for Amelia, which, as I've said to previous people, it doesn't have to be that fast. It can. It's whatever your vibe. So we begin. The first question is, what is the best sandwich?
I'm going to go with Ryan Gosling and say ice cream. Specifically, the Oreo ice cream sandwich.
That sounds delicious.
That's the best.
Great.
It's really the best.
Okay. Next question. What is your middle name?
Okay. The other two told the story, so I am going to also tell a story about my middle name. And it's not really so much a story. It's fine. You'll figure it out. Okay. So my middle name is Virginia. So now everyone knows my full name is Amelia Virginia Cotton. So my fun fact about my name, and this is not why my parents named me this at all, but in the state of Virginia, there's a town named Amelia, and they grow cotton there. So cotton, therefore, that comes from there, it's really Amelia Courthouse, but like we don't have to talk about that, is Amelia Virginia Cotton.
There you go. That's beautiful. So delightfully Southern. That's great.
And yes, I'm so not Southern, even though I live in the South. But
Not so
other
much.
than my accent, people don't know when they hear my
Mm-mm.
name.
No.
All right.
I feel like when they hear the last name Cotton, they're like, "Are you from the South?" That's a little,
Yeah, probably
little
not
bit,
great.
little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. What is the last thing that made you laugh?
I feel like this question's a setup.
I should probably take it out. I should take this out and the "Why are you here?" Because it's like you goober.
But it's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
It's this conversation. If I have
Okay.
to say something outside of this conversation, I
Sure.
watched my 18-year-old give the dog a bath earlier, and that was just
Sounds
and they had neither of them.
amazing.
Well, my dog wouldn't know that I was watching, but like he had no idea I was watching, and it was just very very entertaining, as you
Did
can
it
imagine.
go? Did it go poorly, or it went about as well as a dog bath could
Yeah,
go? Okay.
about as well as a dog bath can go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. So next one, give us one book that you think we should read.
Yes. Um, okay, so this book recommendation is turning back on you. So, like, you already read
Oh.
it. But as I've told you before, and for anybody listening, anytime I look at anything on Goodreads, Ashley has already reviewed it, which is very convenient for me. And then I always know that I can talk to you about it. But one
Yeah.
of the recommendations that you gave me that ended up being one of my favorite books of all time is Demon Copperhead
By
by
Barbara
Barbara. Is it Kingsolver?
Kingsolver. Yeah.
It's so good. It came as a recommendation from you and my high school English teacher that we still talk about books like all
Oh,
these many years
that's
later. She's great.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. She was the one, she like put two books down for me one time and was like, pick one. And I was like, but what are they about? And she was like, judge a book by a cover, just like pick one. And
Nice.
also if you don't like it, close it. Like you don't have to finish it. Anyway,
That's like so
she's
many
great.
life lessons.
Great
That's
lady.
amazing. Yeah, that book
For
is
real.
great. It is if you don't know, it is a modern retelling of David Copperfield. And it's set in Appalachia and it is
Hmm.
it's oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It's
Here, look,
wonderful. And
no surprise.
Demon's
I'm jump
voice,
do what? The
Demon's
voice?
voice,
Oh
and
yeah.
just
I was gonna say, yeah, unsurprisingly, I'm like jumping in and hogging into your lightning round.
no.
I'm like, let me tell you about the book Amelia's telling us about. Shocker. Okay. Last one. The best advice that you have received that has improved your life.
Yeah. This is this is a difficult one to answer. I hope that you know that, but it
Yeah.
is fitting with the podcast, so I
Yes.
accept the challenge.
Yes.
Um, I'm gonna go with there's power in the pause. And this is a thing
Oh.
that I've been trying to practice and do a lot lately. That's been really helpful for me
Hmm.
in a lot of different ways, which is take a second and check in with yourself. So instead of just like reacting to a situation or to a person, it's like, okay, this thing happened with this family member of mine. I'm feeling really anxious and like I need to like go to their aid or I need to talk to them about this thing, but I'm feeling anxious. So
Hmm.
maybe what I need isn't to go be like the savior or have like, I don't know, like a different sort of reaction,
Yeah.
but check in and see what I need instead. And then kind of like formulate your action plan from there. But that's a thing I've been trying to practice that yeah, has been really, really helpful.
That's great. Yeah. I tend to
Power in the
be
pause.
very reactive. So that to me is a good
Really?
like a thank you for
Sorry.
thank you for feigning surprise.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm super reactive and act before I think and sometimes talk before I think and whatever else. So that's a good sort of like meditative practice also to just kind of take a moment and then beautiful. Okay, now we're going to transition in and see if I'm able to recommend a book to Amelia. Here we go.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so I am going to give you the book rec, like your own personal book concierge. I have a few questions though. So, do you prefer reading via audio or original recipe, which is what I call like looking at a book or a Kindle?
Which you should always call that.
Yep.
I like both.
Okay,
It really
that's fine.
depends for me. I audiobooks I'm very wishy-washy about because
Yeah.
of the voice themselves. So like
Something. Yeah.
I did half and half for Demon Copperhead and
Right.
it was wonderful. But it really depends.
Yeah.
So
One.
let's go original recipe.
Okay. Okay. And then what genres? There it is. What genres do you like, or are there any genres you're interested to try?
Hmm. I read a lot of different things.
Okay.
So it's hard for me to answer that. I like something dramatic,
Okay.
something crime-ish is good. I have been really into like a fantasy book kick lately.
Okay.
I prefer fiction to nonfiction.
Okay. 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 I have two ideas for you, and they're actually kind of in the similar vein.
Okay.
Let me find my window. Here we go. Okay. And I think they fit the bill. So, do you know Charlene Harris? She wrote the Suki Stackhouse books that the show True Blood was based on.
I think that I've heard you talk about her
Yeah.
before.
So I'm not talking about those books are great, but the book I want to recommend is called An Easy Death by Charlene Harris, and it is Gunny Rose number one. So in this book, Gunny Rose is a young woman who's a hired gun in an alternate reality of America. So it's got like a
Mm,
little bit of fantasy, kind of a little bit of sci-fi because there's magic. So in this America, the world has been, or like the US has been fractured into separate countries after the assassination of FDR. So like the world has kind of spun off. And so
okay.
she is they're looking for a man to protect some people through rough terrain, and they get her, and she's 19, and like you love to root for her as she is like a true cowgirl, like mercenary. How does that sound?
Okay. Yeah, I would try that.
And it's got some magic, and it's got, and so
Love it.
there's another one that I'm going to recommend that's actually like the covers are similar and the vibes are similar. The other one is called Lone Women by Victor LaValle. Now, this one, do you do horror?
Sure.
Okay, so this one is, so the first one is more like cowgirl magic vibes. This one is like wilderness horror vibes. So the book
I love that.
starts, and there's a woman, Adelaide. Her parents are dead. We don't know why. And she is leaving the farm with a heavy trunk and a dark family secret and going to Montana to start over by herself.
Mm,
That's where it is. And it's interesting because like after the initial horror of it, it sort of like tapers down. So like the next thing that happened that was really scary, I like jumped because I like forgot I was reading a scary book because it was being
ooh,
like not scary for a long time. Okay. So I'm gonna give
okay.
you those two, right? And they're both like, because when I was thinking of like Amelia, I was thinking of like strong female characters who were like doing their thing, and that's where gave you those recs. So there
Oh,
you go.
thank you. Thank you. I will check those both out. Both original recipes.
Both original. Yeah, I didn't do audio. I mean, I'm sure they have audio,
That's fine.
but I didn't do audio for either of them.
Great. I'm excited to check
So
them out.
yes, please stop everything you're doing and go read both of them immediately is what I would expect you to do, of course.
Well, naturally.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so with that, we're gonna bid Amelia bye-bye, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about the book about No Hard Feelings. Thank you,
Great.
Amelia,
Thanks
for coming today. This has
for
been
having me,
great.
Ashley.
Do what? What'd you say? What was that?
I said thanks for having me. This
Oh,
was so much fun.
sorry, I interrupted you. Okay, thank you. I had so much fun talking to Amelia today, and I'm here to share just a little bit more book knowledge with you. So, if you are looking for some inspiration, more about the topic we talked about emotions and work and rethinking your relationship to work, then I have some books you can check out. And so, I said I was going to talk about this more in the back end, and now we're here. So, the book we mentioned already was No Hard Feelings by Liz Fosslin and Molly West Duffy. And so, like we said, we first read this book. I had just started a new job in a new industry, in a new environment because I had switched from hybrid work to exclusive work from home. The entire company was remote. And so it was a period of newness. But I think this book would be equally beneficial if you're in your same job and just looking to maybe make some changes. And so, if you don't know about Liz and Molly, you should look them up on the Instagram. So, they are a collaborative duo, and they share insights and reflections about modern concepts using words and illustrations, these little cartoons. And when you go look it up, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I've seen that before because their stuff is, they've had a few viral moments. Their stuff is super popular and super relatable. So the book, to go back to that, the book is split into 7 key topics. So you've got health, motivation, decision making, teams, communication, culture, and leadership. And so each section is a really engaging blend of they have their own personal anecdotes they share, they've got advice, they've got those illustrations, and then there's also like the underpinning of research. So it's a really well developed book. And so I will say anyone who takes the time to read this book will learn something because they've just really packaged it together well in a way that is like understandable and like super actionable. And so it could be really fun to read with a friend or a coworker and talk about, like Amelia and I did. And so, like a lot of self-help style books, there's so much information. It's pretty dense to try to take it all in. So I would suggest don't read it cover to cover, but read like one chapter every 2 or 3 weeks so that you can really take time to reflect on it and absorb it before you move on. But that's not the only book I'm going to recommend today. So this can be difficult work trying to sort of rethink and change routines and change how you look at your work. So I want to recommend a fun book, something that is less heady, something that will be like charming for you. And so this one I've already mentioned on the pod. So scandalous. How could I? Because I can do whatever I want. So I'm going to repeat a book that is really relevant to the topic at hand at work. And that book is House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. So it is about someone who is going through the motions at their desk job. So that's just kind of fun and a fun tie-in. But the book takes you to places that are really fun and sweet. So the protagonist, Linus, is a by-the-book guy at this job. He's got hopes of a better life, but he doesn't know what to do to begin. So he's sort of a magical social worker. So he's going to determine if children with special abilities, kind of like a la the X-Men, are getting care they deserve. And so he gets assigned, he's got to travel to an orphanage. And that experience and that place and those people completely change his life. And he's got to decide, is he going to change? Is he going to be the same person? It's very sweet and very fun and very funny. And there's going to be a sequel coming out in September. So if you get it quick, you could read them both back to back. And that is going to be all you get from me today. So we have reached the end of our episode. I love a little recap because life is busy and I want you to have something to take with you. So what the heck did we do today? In today's episode, Amelia and I talked about giving new school energy to your job by examining my 3 R's of labor habits: routine, relationships, and reorganization. I also suggested you make your own mood boosting playlist, or you can borrow mine. I'll put it in the show notes. Amelia recommended we read the book Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. For Amelia, I recommended the books Lone Woman by Victor Laval and An Easy Death by Charlene Harris. In unrequired reading, I recommended No Hard Feelings, The Secret Power of Embracing Emotions at Work by Liz and Molly, when you want to be tactical about your emotions in the workplace, and House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, when you need cheering that a better work life is possible. And please follow and review wherever you pod, and join the Cheerberry on Instagram or Facebook by following me at the @Cheerberry handle. That's where you can see resource links and other goodies and talk to me, which I would love. Now go on, get out of here, dance it out, drink more water. Okay, bye.